Probably my favorite book in self-help, Learned Optimism by Martin Seligman. He writes that there are 3 P's that will decide if we're going to be optimistic, if we're going to be positive, or if we're going to be pessimistic and be negative. The 3 P's that will decide if we'll be positive people are broken down to: do you take things personal? Do you look at problems as permanent? And are problems pervasive? Pervasive means they're worse than they are. People who are successful in life usually are people who are able to master these 3 P's of positivity. They don't take things personal. They don't look at problems as permanent. And also, they don't look at problems worse than they are. But the truth is that Martin Seligman wasn't the first person who came up with these ideas. Really, the first one who came up with these ideas was Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was the most positive person ever. The words Or Zarua la Tzaddik Uli Lev Simha, the light is planted for the tzaddik, and for the one who's straight-hearted is happiness. Those words, we say them on Yom Kippur, right after we say the Kal Nidre, because those letters, Or Zarua la Tzaddik Uli Lev Simha, have at the ends of those letters the letters of Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva died specifically on Yom Kippur night, and therefore we want to remember that, and that's why we say those words right after Kal Nidre. What is it that Rabbi Akiva did that was so optimistic, that he had light planted for the tzaddik, that no matter what he's going through, he says there's light planted here, and something good's going to come out of it, and he always had the happiness? How do we understand this about Rabbi Akiva? Well, if you look at all the stories of Rabbi Akiva's life, you'll see every single one of them, and we know a lot of them, are all stories of positivity. First of all, we know that Rabbi Akiva, when he got married, he went to learn, and he saw the rock had the water dripping in it. And he said that even being a dumb person or not being educated at the age of 40, if you drip, drop inside a rock, then even though the last drop didn't do it, but every single drop eventually was able to make a hole in the stone. And in my brain also, the Torah, if it drops into it, it can make a brain. It means that being dumb is not permanent. That means that I could be able to be a person who will be wise. Mahkimat peti. I could become a wise person through my Torah learning. And we know also that he was in the barn with that was his house, with his wife. Rachel was the daughter of the richest man, but she was excommunicated from her father's prophets. And he was in the barn, and all of a sudden there's a knock on the door. He wants to ask them if they don't mind, if he can have hay, because his wife, he was dressed up like a poor person. He said his wife doesn't even have hay to give birth on. So they gave the hay, and he told his wife, you see, we are so rich, at least we have hay. This poor person doesn't even have hay. You know, he was picking out wife's hair. He was picking out this hay from her hair, and he said that one day I'll be able to buy you a Yerushalayim Shel Zahav, a certain type of crown, ornament for your head. One day we'll be rich. This situation that we're in right now is not going to stay forever. You know, it's interesting that this Eliyahu Navi, when he comes as a poor man, he asks for hay to change and give some support to Rabbi Akiva and his wife, that he could keep going with what they're going through. And it's interesting because if you would have a chance of Eliyahu Navi coming and saving the day for Rabbi Akiva, he could have just given them Yerushalayim Shel Zahav ornament. But the idea is that if you want to, sometimes giving somebody an opportunity to give is greater than giving the person an opportunity to take. And that's what Rabbi Akiva lived by. He says, if I give, that means that I have. He taught us that a rich man is a person who has a wife with good character. And his mindset was different, and that type of mindset is a mindset of positivity. When he was by the Horban and he sees the stones, he sees the Kodesh Kodashim and Holy of Holies, and a fox runs out of there, he starts to laugh. He has the positive mindset that this is what's happening now. Imagine what things are going to be, that the prophecy is going to come true. There will be another rebuilding of the Beit HaMikdash. We know also that the story of Rabbi Akiva, where he was stuck outside of a city because they didn't take him in for the night, and his rooster and the light that he had for study and his cat and his donkey were all taken from him, but he said that everything Hashem does is for the best. We know all the stories of Rabbi Akiva are stories of positivity, which comes to tell us something unbelievable. That Rabbi Akiva, when he died, he was able to say that I waited my whole life for this moment, even though we're peeling this flesh off of his body. And he's saying to the students, I'm happy. B'chol nafshecha, b'chol levacha. I wanted to give up my soul to Hashem, and now this is a chance. You know, Rabbi Akiva, that And when he looks at things, even the greatest pain, he looks at death and he says, this is the greatest thing in the world. This is what I looked forward for my whole life. You know, it's something very special, because there's a Midrash Timan that tells us that when the brothers, they sold Yosef, there were really only 9 brothers there. And we know that there was 10 great rabbis that were killed to be a kapara for those 10 the 10 brothers who sold Yosef. We know that Yosef, he was sold, he didn't really have 10 brothers that sold him. There was really only 9 that were there. And how do we explain that there's 10 that needed to be killed and Rabbi Akiva to be the one of those 10? The truth is that when the brothers sold Yosef and they got coins for each one of the 10 brothers, there was one that was part of the 10 was Hashem. Because Yosef, Reuven didn't say Yosef, and Benjamin didn't say Yosef, and Yosef didn't say Yosef. So Hashem was the 10th one who was part of the sale. And Hashem himself also needs kapara for being part of the sale. Yosef, the brothers, they took the Hashem's portion, they threw it into the heavens, say, Hashem, here's your portion. And that coin fell into the ground, and for years it was not found, till a man called Yosef found that Yosef was a convert, and he found that coin. He was a very poor man. He needed to buy shoes for his wife in order for her to marry him. And that man was the father of Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva was the kapara for Hashem that was part of the sale. That was the Midrash Taman tells us. So Hashem himself on Yom Kippur wants kapara. Sometimes we go through things in life, we don't understand why are we going through this, and we don't realize that Hashem has so many calculations, and for Rabbi Akiva to be the one who died as a kapara for Hashem, that's the greatest thing in Yom Kippur. Because what we want in Yom Kippur is a kapara for not loving our brothers like we're supposed to. Like we say, Ki atasa hani Yisrael u'mahalan l'shiftei Yishurun. Hashem, you are the one who forgives Yisrael and the forgiver of the Shvatim that they sold Yosef. Till today, we're still doing kapara for that. Rabbi says, I can be a kapara for Hashem. And that's what it comes to tell you. If you have the right mindset, you can go through anything and stay positive.